Do the Eagles even believe in Jalen Hurts?
Check the weather and it's getting real. I'll be outside.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Behind Enemy Lines Sports Talk Show. I'm your host, Scoop, a proud Dallas Cowboy fan, a proud New York Mets fan. And every single day, I live and work deep behind enemy lines, right here in Philadelphia sports country, the home of the Eagle fans, Phillies fans, and sports talk radio debates that somehow gets crazier every single day. Now, if you're new to the show, this isn't your typical Philly sports podcast. I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm not a Phillies fan. I'm the guy sitting on the other side of the rivalry, giving you an honest perspective on the biggest stories in Philadelphia sports. And today, we got a loaded show. We'll debut the very first edition of Storytime Behind Enemy Lines, where I'll tell you what it was like attending a Cowboys versus Eagles game at Lincoln Financial Field with my wife. Trust me, you might want to hear this one. Then we'll discuss Steve Smith Sr.'s comments about DeVonta Smith potentially becoming a true number one wide receiver. Could DeVonta finally be ready to step out of A.J. Brown's shadow? After that, we'll talk about the growing conversation surrounding Jalen Hurts, because some Philadelphia media members are beginning to wonder if the Eagles organization is truly committed to him long term. And finally, one of the wildest trade ideas I've heard all year. Would you trade Jalen Carter for Maxx Crosby? Apparently, some people in Philly think it's worth discussing. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get into it. This is Behind Enemy Lines Sports Talk Show.
Check the weather and it's getting real. I'll be outside.
Before we get into Eagles news, it's time for the first ever edition of Storytime Behind Enemy Lines. And today's story takes us to Lincoln Financial Field. Cowboys versus Eagles. Me and my wife. 2 Cowboy fans, thousands of Eagle fans. What could possibly go wrong?
Check the weather and it's getting real. I'll be outside.
So listen, this is where the story starts. This was the year the Cowboys had 2,000-yard receivers, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. Dak threw for like 4,000 or 5,000. We had a 1,000-yard rusher and Ezekiel Elliott. Trayvon Diggs had 10 interceptions, and Michael Parsons had 10-plus sacks. It was that year. Whatever year that was, go look it up for your boy and comment below what year it was. Playoffs was already locked, so it was the last game of the season. And tickets were cheap because the Eagles decided to sit their starters because they didn't want anybody to get injured and they couldn't improve their playoffs ranking. So I look at the tickets and they super cheap. I looked at my wife and was like, yo, we got to go to this game. She's like, all right, let's do it. We're both Cowboy fans. We never been to a Cowboy-Eagles game. I get the tickets. And my wife, Brianna, she asked me, what jersey are you wearing? That's where things went left. I looked at her like, what you mean? What you mean what jersey I'm wearing? She said, I mean, every Sunday you wear your Cowboys jersey. And I looked at her, I said, yeah, I know, but what do you mean what jersey I'm wearing? She said, well, we're going to the game. And I said, I know, but what do you mean what jersey I'm wearing? See, she didn't understand the politics of everything right now. She doesn't understand the history of Eagle fans at they crib. She doesn't understand the history of the dangers she's trying to put her man through. So I had to explain to her. I said, listen, baby, your man ain't no punk. You know what I'm saying? He ain't no punk. He ain't scared, but he also ain't stupid. I was like, come and take a seat. I had to school her real quick. I said, listen, it's just me and you. You know what I'm saying? I could take about 1 or 2. It's going to be the whole stadium against us. Now, we know who we rooting for. We both know who we rooting for. They don't need to know who we rooting for. You know what I'm saying? So, you wearing Cowboys gear at the link is not a good idea. There's stories about little kids cussing out grown folks because they're Cowboy fans. You know what I'm saying? And I don't have the heart. I'm not mature enough to be getting cussed out by a little kid, getting the middle finger by a little kid, and just letting it roll off my shoulder. I'm not mature enough. I'm going to either want to fight the kid or I'm like, yo, where your parent at? And we're going to have to scuffle. But it's not going to end well because if one Eagle fan see his fellow brother getting in the fight with a Cowboy fan, they say, oh, yeah, we got to help him out. So, long story short, I said, listen, yeah, we ain't wearing no Cowboys gear today. And she looked at me like, what? I said, you'll understand in a couple hours. So we hit up the local Walmart because that day was cold. We had to buy hand warmers. We brought new scarves and hats and gloves. It was super cold that day, right? Now, I will say this. We did wear blue and gray. I will say that we ain't sell out all the way. You know what I'm saying? I had my blue jacket on. My wife had a gray hoodie on. You know what I'm saying? We let it be known we ain't wearing no green. but we just playing the smart. So we go to the game, right? Good seats. Yo, good seats. Shout out to SeatGeek. This ain't a paid sponsorship, by the way. So we ain't going to do too many shout outs unless they start paying your boy. But SeatGeek got us right. And these tickets was good for the low. And to be honest with you, we were around other Cowboy fans. Some of them had some Cowboys gear on, but not everybody. Everybody's on the same page. Like, it's not even worth it. You know what I'm saying? It's not worth arguing with Eagle fans. The game goes on, and there's Eagle fans right in front of us. But again, they don't know we Cowboy fans. So the game goes on, and the Eagles do something successful. I don't know if they scored first or had the big third down conversion. I don't remember. But Eagle fans go crazy. And the fans in front of us, they shouting, giving each other high fives. And they turn around to try to give us a high five.
Getting real, I'll be outside.
We looked at them in the most disgust way, like, what? Nah, we cool. In that moment right there, they find out, like, oh, these are Cowboy fans sitting behind us. You damn Skippy. You know what I'm saying? I might not wear my jersey, but I ain't gonna act like I'm Eagle. Oh, no. So we ain't dap them up, and they was cool about it. They started laughing. It's like, oh, we got more ops in the building. But they was cool. Right? So the game goes on, right? And I'm thinking like, all right, they chill. Everybody know we Cowboy fans. It's already been determined. We cool. Everybody cool. We can just watch the game, get out the building safely. We cool. Next quarter happens, yo. Next quarter happens. And we do something successful. So now, like I told you, there are some Cowboy fans around us, right? So we all cheering now, dapping each other up. My wife, dude, she taps the Eagle fan and tries to give him a high five because that's what they try to do to us. And they just laugh. But I looked at my wife, was like, what are you doing? And we all just laugh. I'm just like, yo, if we did that to the wrong Eagle fan, your boy would have been rumbling in here. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Right? You got to respect their territory. You know what I'm saying? We're visitors in their home. Needless to say, we whooped the Eagles that day. It was a good game. It was super cold, but we had a good time. I left saying like, maybe I should consider wearing my Cowboys gear, but it's just like, at the end of the day, I don't think it's worth it. Like, I know who I'm rooting for. Me and my wife, we know who we're rooting for. You know what I'm saying? We're not wearing the ops team's color, but I just don't think it's worth having necessary conversations where it might go left because I feel disrespected in some type of way. Comment below your thoughts. If you're a Cowboy fan, would you wear your jersey? Do you think it's worth it? Me, I don't think it's worth it. And we had a good night that night because we won, and there wasn't no argument. There was multiple fights throughout the stadium. Oh, believe that. It was multiple, and they were all on the Jumbotron. And guess what? The Cowboy fan getting in the fight, they had their Cowboy jersey on, and it was probably a couple beers in. So it was nasty work, but we had a good time, and we look forward to going to another Eagles Cowboys game. Hopefully, we can go down there in Texas, but we'll see.
Check the weather and it's getting real, I'll be outside.
All right, now that I survived sharing my experience at Lincoln Financial Field, let's get back to the Eagles, because speaking of players who don't always get the respect they deserve, Steve Smith Sr. recently made some interesting comments about DeVonta Smith.
Man, I've always been a fan of DeVonta Smith. And Smitty, depending on what you like to see when evaluating wide receivers, some people might say watching Smitty film is a little bit boring. And that's actually a compliment. The reason he makes everyone look the same. The reason he makes everything look the same. There's very little wasted movement. He runs his routes with consistency and keeps defenders guessing. Sure, he has his splash plays and shows up on highlight reels. You see it. Mm-hmm. But what really stands out is how dominant he is in an intermediate pass game. The way Smitty attacks the intermediate routes is what makes him so dangerous. His route pacing, separation, and his ability to create throwing windows consistently puts defenders in difficult positions. It is incredible and effective. And I got some film to show you. So instead of wasting a whole bunch of time and making this a long episode, let's jump right into what makes Smitty so special and how and what he does to separate himself and why he will be the number one wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. And there was no question prior to the A.J. Brown departure. It was just waiting for his opportunity.
I know what you're thinking. Why is a Cowboy fan making a video about an Eagles receiver? Because business is business. That's why. A.J. Brown just got shipped to New England, which means DeVonta Smith is suddenly the guy in Philly. And I have some serious questions. First question, is he actually elite? Let's get the resume out the way. 3 1,000-yard seasons in 5 years. Never missed real time. And last year, while playing second field to A.J. Brown the entire time, he still put up over 1,000 yards. That's not a system guy. That's not a product of A.J. Brown drawing coverage. Okay, fine. It's a little bit of that, but still. Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend he's not good. Former NFL receiver Steve Smith straight up said this guy is a legit number one receiver. He runs elite routes. He can line up anywhere in the field. And honestly, watching the tape, I agree. DeVonta Smith wins with precision, not size. He's not going to run through your linebacker. He's going to make your corner fall down, though, at the top of his route and then casually jog into the end zone. Here's the thing people get wrong. Smith and Brown were never really the same type of receiver. A.J. Brown's a truck. Contested catches, break tackles, turns a slant into a 60-yard house call. He set the Eagles' single-season receiving record. He's arguably the best wideout in franchise history. Go listen to episode 2 if you haven't yet. That's where I broke down the Eagles' top receivers in franchise history. But that's not a knock on DeVonta Smith. That's just a different player. Smith is a technician, the separation artist. He's not winning jump balls over a safety. He's making a safety fall over with a stutter step. Both guys complementing each other perfectly for 4 years, which is exactly why Philly's passing game was so nasty to deal with. You couldn't double one without the other torching you. But now there's only one elite guy left in Philly's room instead of two. And as a Cowboy fan, watching this unravel is awesome. Can he actually be the guy is the real question. It's one thing to be a great number two. It's a totally different job being the guy every defensive coordinator builds the game plan around. Philly knows this. That's why they went out and got like 4 new receivers this offseason. They got a rookie first rounder. They got a trade player and 2 free agents. They're not trying to replace A.J. Brown with one guy. They're trying to replace him with a committee. But here's my honest take. No Cowboys bias. This is a downgrade. A.J. Brown was a problem. Smith is really good, but really good and the guy that breaks a defense's whole game plan are not the same. Eagle fans calling this a lateral move are coping. This is 2026 or bust for DeVonta Smith's legacy. And I think the offense takes a step back before it figures itself out. And look, I get it. Eagle fans are going to be in my comments calling this Cowboys cope. Maybe it is. I'm a guy whose franchise last big move was paying a kicker like a franchise quarterback. Leave me alone.
Check the weather and it's getting real. I'll be outside.
Now, while we're talking about Eagle stars and how they view within their organization, let's move over to the quarterback position because this next conversation might make Eagle fans uncomfortable. Whenever the words Jalen Hurts and controversy appear in the same sentence, you know Philadelphia Sports Radio is going to lose it.
The Eagles are not in on Jalen Hurts. They're just not. You can have your opinion. I can have mine. We can point out he won the Super Bowl. We can point out he always makes the playoffs. All those things are valid. It doesn't matter what any of us think. And it could not be more obvious coming out of the Jefferson Training Complex. They are very hesitant about Jalen Hurts. How many quarterbacks win a Super Bowl and don't get a new contract? And I think what's interesting about this article is, you're right, we've only really discussed this from the Eagle side of it. What do they think of Jalen? Do they want to commit to Jalen? Do they think he's a good quarterback? We don't look at this from Jalen's side. And I think this is one of the first times we've saw maybe Jalen's camp push back a little bit, right? And keep this in mind. When Jalen signed his contract extension, his big one after 2022, before he won the Super Bowl, what did he get in that contract? A no-trade clause. I think Jalen has always been aware the team's not super in on him. They tried to trade for a different quarterback after 2021. When they drafted him in 2020, they told the whole world he's a backup, and the idea that he could push Carson Wentz was crazy.
I don't get the disrespect from Philly sports fans sometimes. Jalen Hurts has gone from a bench college backup to arguably the best quarterback Eagles history has produced, and the numbers back it up. Let's take a look at Jalen Hurts' career journey. He was drafted in the second round in 2020 as Carson Wentz insurance. Hurts took over as a starter in 2021 and has started every meaningful Eagles game since. He led Philadelphia to 5 playoff appearances, 3 divisional titles, and 2 Super Bowl trips, with 3 career Pro Bowl selections. The signature year was 2022, a 14-1 starting record with 35 total touchdowns, 22 passing, 13 rushing, against just 6 interceptions. 3,701 passing yards and a 101.5 rating. A season that earned him his first Pro Bowl nod, second team All-Pro, and a runner-up finish and MVP voted. He scored double-digit rushing touchdowns in 4 straight seasons, the most ever by a quarterback. Shout out to the tush push. We hate the tush push, but it's getting Jalen Hurts paid. The peak so far was February 2025. He threw for 221 yards and 2 touchdowns and ran for a Super Bowl record 72 yards in a 40-22 win, beating the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, earning the Super Bowl MVP and becoming the 4th black starting quarterback to win it all. His career Super Bowl passer rating of 109.4 ranks 4th all-time behind only Montana, Bradshaw, and Aikman. Going into 2026, his career playoff record sits at 6-4. And y'all telling me he might not be the right guy for the Eagles anymore. Y'all tripping. You guys don't know when to quit being so tough, harsh, and mean, do you? I'm just going to say it. Hurts is the best quarterback in Eagles franchise history. Y'all still thinking about replacing this man. Pathetic. And if you thought that was controversial, wait until you hear this next one. A trade proposal involving one of the best young defensive players in football, one of the best pass rushers in football.
I would go ahead and call the Raiders and say, we will give you Jalen Carter for Maxx Crosby. It takes the decision to pay Jalen Carter off the table. It takes whatever weirdness would be this year with Jalen Carter having not giving him the deal off the table. It takes all those games that you're going to have to play with Drew Rosenhaus off the table. And you just take the money that you would have given to Jalen Carter for the next 5. I'd rather pay Maxx Crosby for the next 2 years than pay Jalen Carter for the next 5 years. Because remember, the commitment that you're going to have to make to Jalen Carter is going to have to be a long-term one. Maxx Crosby has 2 years left on his deal. And also, Maxx Crosby, I know he was injured last year, but has largely played like every snap.
Listen, y'all Eagles franchise, do what y'all want. Jalen Carter is a top 3 defensive tackle. Maxx Crosby is a top 5 defensive end. So you probably can't go wrong with either player, especially if you don't want to pay and lock up Carter long term. On pure accomplishment, Crosby is the more proven player. He just earned his 5th straight Pro Bowl with 10 sacks, 73 tackles, 2 forced fumbles in his first career interception in 2025. And he's racked up 69.5 sacks, 278 solo tackles, and 133 tackles for loss over 110 career games. He's arguably the league's 2nd best pure pass rusher behind Myles Garrett. Carter is the better long-term value for the Eagles specifically. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler still on his rookie scale contract through 2027 and only entering his 4th season at 25. What surprised me was his pure pass rush grade actually graded out higher than Maxx Crosby in 2025. For better defensive player, full stop today, I give the edge to Crosby. More complete, more accomplished, been doing it longer at an elite level. But what's better for the Eagles specifically is Carter. That's going to do it for episode 3 Behind Enemy Lines Sports Talk Show. Today we talk my experience attending Cowboys versus Eagles at Lincoln Financial Field, whether DeVonta Smith is actually a number 1 receiver, the growing debate around Jalen Hurts and the Eagles' commitment to him, and whether trading Jalen Carter for Maxx Crosby would be a genius or insanity. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're an Eagles fan, don't be afraid to disagree. This show is all about hearing perspectives from both sides of the rivalry. I'm Scoop, a Cowboys fan, a Mets fan living behind enemy lines in Philadelphia sports country. And I'll catch you next episode.